Dexter Morgan should have been caught. He worked inside Miami Metro, surrounded by some of the best homicide detectives in the country. People trained to track down killers just like him. And yet, he was never even a suspect. Why? Because Dexter didn't just avoid getting caught, he controlled the game. He planted evidence, sabotaged investigations, and framed innocent people to keep his double life hidden. Even when the police got too close, he always found a way to slip through the cracks. So how did he do it? And more importantly, why was he never stopped? Today, we're exposing every time Dexter outsmarted the justice system, from flipping the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation on its head to staging his own death without leaving a trace. But here's the real question. Was Dexter truly a mastermind? Or was the justice system just never built to stop someone like him? Sergeant James Doakes was the only detective in Miami Metro who saw through Dexter's act. While everyone else saw a quiet forensic analyst, Doakes sensed something deeply wrong about him, and unlike the others, he wasn't afraid to say it. From the very beginning, Doakes made it personal. He harassed Dexter, followed him, and made it clear that he didn't buy the awkward blood expert routine. And he was right, but here's the problem. Being right wasn't enough. Doakes needed proof. And when he finally found it, a box of blood slides hidden in Dexter's apartment, this should have been game over. Except Dexter was always one step ahead. He didn't just escape, he flipped the entire case around. Doakes had already been aggressive towards Dexter for months, making him look like a loose cannon. And now, the perfect storm. Doakes went missing. Dexter's blood slides were discovered. Laguerta, who still believed in Doakes, was manipulated into looking irrational. Everything pointed to Doakes. And here's the real genius of it. Dexter never actually framed Doakes himself. He didn't plant the blood slides. He didn't orchestrate Doakes' disappearance. He simply let the justice system follow its own flawed logic. And it did exactly what he needed. Think about it. If Miami Metro had stepped back for 1 second and actually questioned the evidence, they might have realized how neatly everything had fallen into place. But they didn't. The moment Doakes was labeled as the Bay Harbor Butcher, the system was already working in Dexter's favor. And then came Lila. Here's the real chilling part. Dexter never had to kill Doakes himself. He simply left him in a vulnerable position and let someone else pull the trigger. Lila, obsessed and desperate to prove her love, set the cabin on fire while Doakes was still inside. Dexter walked away completely clean. No evidence, no witnesses, just a tragic story of a killer cop who had apparently fooled everyone. But was this part of Dexter's plan? Or was this the ultimate example of how lucky he truly was? Because here's the real thought. If Doakes had lived, would Dexter have ever gotten caught? But framing Doakes wasn't the only time Dexter let the system do his dirty work. In Season 3, Dexter killed Oscar Prado, the younger brother of Miguel Prado, a powerful assistant district attorney. This should have been a disaster. Miguel had influence, resources, and the full weight of the legal system behind him. Any other killer would have been caught. But Dexter, he made sure Miami Metro solved the case for him. Instead of a controlled, premeditated kill, Oscar's death was a mistake, a violent struggle, a knife to the chest. And yet, Dexter turned this liability into an opportunity. He manipulated the crime scene, making it look like a gang-related murder. He planted false evidence that pointed police toward a known drug dealer. He used Miguel's grief, turning the ADA into an ally instead of an enemy, and it worked. The case was closed. The investigation went exactly where Dexter wanted it to go. But here's the real danger. Miguel wasn't just any grieving brother. He was someone who wanted justice at any cost. By manipulating Miguel, Dexter thought he had gained a powerful friend. Instead, he created a bigger threat than he ever expected. Did Dexter really outsmart the justice system? Or did he set himself up for a much deadlier game? And just like Miguel Prado, Laguerta got too close to the truth, but she was far more dangerous. Maria Laguerta wasn't driven by instinct or personal vendetta. She was guided by cold, hard evidence. She reopened the Bay Harbor Butcher case, knowing that Doakes was a convenient scapegoat. But the deeper she looked, the more inconsistencies she found, and every single one pointed to Dexter. Laguerta wasn't just investigating, she was building a case. She recovered a blood slide from Travis Marshall's crime scene, a detail that mirrored the Butcher's MO. She re-examined old reports, realizing that Dexter had been present at key crime scenes long before the police arrived. She wasn't just closing in, she had him. Most killers would run, but Dexter, he fought back with the one thing Laguerta underestimated: people's perception. He didn't need to destroy evidence. He just needed to destroy Laguerta's credibility. He planted fake proof that made her look desperate. He leaned on his flawless reputation as Miami Metro's top forensics expert. He exploited her past obsession with Doakes, making it seem like she was trying to frame another innocent man. And just like that, the system turned against her. But Laguerta was different from Doakes. She had real proof. She wasn't just guessing, she knew. So Dexter made his final move. He manipulated the only person who still believed in him, Deb. Faced with an impossible choice, Deb pulled the trigger. But was this really a victory for Dexter? Or was this the moment he finally lost control? And if manipulating individuals wasn't enough, Dexter had another advantage. He manipulated the very system he worked for. As a blood spatter analyst, Dexter wasn't just part of Miami Metro. He controlled what they saw. He was first on crime scenes, giving him the chance to alter or remove evidence before anyone else arrived. He subtly steered investigations away from himself, pointing detectives toward innocent suspects instead. He built absolute trust, ensuring that no one ever questioned his conclusions. And he didn't just use this to cover his tracks. He used it to kill. Take the Trinity Killer case. Miami Metro spent months chasing dead ends, while Dexter figured out Trinity's identity first. But instead of helping, he kept it to himself, studying Arthur Mitchell until he was ready to take him down personally. The same thing happened with the Doomsday Killers. Dexter let Miami Metro fall behind while he took justice into his own hands. And here's the real question. How many other cases did Dexter secretly influence? For years, Miami Metro thought they were catching killers, but in reality, they were unknowingly playing by Dexter's rules. So was Dexter a mastermind? Or was Miami Metro just too blind to see the truth? But Dexter's biggest mistake wasn't just underestimating his enemies, it was misjudging Hannah McKay. Hannah McKay wasn't like Lila. She wasn't driven by obsession. Instead, she was a mirror image of Dexter, someone who understood him in a way no one else did. This made her dangerous in a completely different way. When Dexter first tried to kill her, she didn't beg for her life. She did something that no other victim had done before. She challenged him. She didn't see Dexter as a killer, but as a man who shared her darkness. And in that moment, Dexter hesitated. For the first time, he chose to let someone live. But this wasn't some twisted romance. It was a power struggle. Dexter, for once, wasn't in control. Hannah knew his secret, and unlike others who feared him, she saw it as an opportunity. She used his own weakness against him, turning the tables. When Deborah attempted to eliminate Hannah, Hannah struck first, poisoning Deb without warning, without hesitation. Dexter was blindsided. He didn't even see it coming. Dexter thought he had control over Hannah, just like he did with everyone else. But in reality, she was the one pulling the strings. Who was truly outsmarting who? Dexter had never encountered a foe who not only knew his darkest secret, but wasn't afraid to use it against him. And that changed everything. Dexter's greatest trick wasn't killing without getting caught. It was disappearing without a trace. Most serial killers slip up. One mistake, one wrong move, and then the justice system catches up. But Dexter, he rewrote the rules. Rather than waiting to be exposed, he erased himself. He staged his own death during Hurricane Laura, ensuring that Miami Metro would believe he drowned at sea, his boat shattered by the storm. No body, no investigation, no loose ends, just another missing person in Miami, lost to the chaos of nature. And yet, he wasn't dead. He started over, a new name, a new job, a new life in Iron Lake. But was this really freedom, or was it a prison of his own making? Dexter may have escaped the justice system, but he sentenced himself to a life of isolation. No family, no code, no purpose. Because here's the truth. Dexter didn't just outsmart the law, he outsmarted himself. And in the end, was that really a victory? In New Blood, Dexter had been arrested for the murder of Matt Caldwell. And for the first time in his life, he was actually behind bars. The justice system was finally catching up to him. But even in a jail cell, Dexter still found a way to take control. He manipulated Logan, the police sergeant, into trusting him. He used his one phone call to get Angela away from her case. And in his final move, he killed Logan in his cell to escape. Think about this. He was already locked up. The police had him. He should have been finished. But instead, he walked out of jail, leaving behind another dead cop. How many killers could pull that off? So now we're left with one big question. Was Dexter truly a mastermind? Or did luck and timing save him every time? He framed innocent people, manipulated evidence, and even convinced his own sister to kill for him. But in the end, was it worth it? Because for all his intelligence, for all his careful planning, he still lost everything. His family, his sister, his son, his entire life. Maybe the real lesson isn't that Dexter was smarter than the system. Maybe it's that even the smartest criminals always end up alone. What do you think? Was Dexter the ultimate mastermind, or did he just get lucky? Let me know in the comments. And if you've made it this far, congrats. You clearly have a dark passenger of your own, always craving the next deep dive into Dexter's mind. So why not make it official? Subscribe and join the dark side. No code required. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.